We ready? Cool. Okay. I want to talk to you a little bit about what we did last time, and then I have someone to introduce to you. Last time, I think you'll remember we were talking about emergency funds, right? And we learned that emergencies happen, right? They just do. Remember that sometimes when you're looking at an emergency, insurance will help you out with it, right? That's one way to deal with it. Sometimes people lean on credit when they have an emergency, like their car breaks down and they put it on the credit. But we talked a lot about the emergency fund and the importance of having an emergency fund, and that, you know, to really be stable with your finances and really make the most of what you have, it's best to have that little cushion account so that you can deal with those unexpected things that definitely happen. We talked about traditional savings accounts. We also talked about money market accounts and certificates of deposits as instruments or products that can help you store those emergency funds, right? Okay. Anybody have any questions about what we did last time? Perfect. Well, if you remember this slide, we're going to do an exercise about TN and CJ. They had an emergency. And this is where my coworker comes in. This is Cassia Augustine, and she works with me at GreenPath, and she's going to talk to you a little bit about this exercise, okay? Cool.
Hi everybody, how are you guys doing today? Hope you don't mind getting up early on a Saturday morning. So this activity will just, I'm going to break you up into groups, and I'm going to give you a scenario, either the TN or CJ, and you can just talk about it in your group and, you know, talk about what you think they should do in the situation when with their car. So I'm going to break you guys up, and then I want each of you, I'll have one person from each team grab a handout up there, and you guys can work together. Okay. All right, guys, we're gonna talk about what you guys came up with. First thing we're gonna do is talk about CJ. So all of the groups that had CJ, we're gonna focus on that first. The situation with CJ is that she's been overspending. If you notice, she's just a little over budget. So can one group volunteer who had CJ to talk about what you guys decided?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So we've decided that she should go ahead and buy the 9,000. We'll go for the 9,000 one because it would only be monthly.
Okay.
She wouldn't have to pay 2,500 down right then. And the other one's rusted and leaking oil, so it'll probably add up to 9,000 over the course of years.
Right.
It's just to buy time, so I think she should do the 9,000.
Okay.
It's also a better option because we do not know the miles on the $400 one, so we don't know how far.
Very true. Okay. And did you happen to also look at the budget to see if there's any changes too that maybe she could make? Because that's another area too, you know, just to.
Are we not so much work on her car every season?
Oh, wow. She's way overspending.
Oh no, don't celebrate Christmas for
And that's really the main thing. You guys, because with the payment, you're right, because coming up with that money, that's why emergency savings is so important. So if you do have something like this happen, you have that money available where you could pay towards a new car, a used car, you know, whatever the case may be. That's what the whole point of this is, you know, CJ using the credit cards, you know, we want to find out what else can we do to plan for these kinds of emergencies. So she can afford those payments. So very good, you guys.
I see a few things that she can cut up.
What else do you see?
Buying lunch at work 20 times during the month. Eating out 3 times a week. She could cut those out.
Yep.
Clothes and personal items.
Sure. Yeah.
Probably not too much car insurance because that seems like it's taking out the most money. And the August vacation, she could take that out.
Sure.
You know, she could buy a tent and everything and just live on a nice good old hike. She should be able to pay for that car.
Yeah.
Say that louder.
I said she could take a hike, buy a tent, and then like live like a mountain person and actually cut a lot of her expenses. She'd be able to pay for the car.
And she wouldn't have all those utilities either, electricity and.
You just cut it off for like 1 month.
That's great, you guys. I mean, I'm glad you guys are thinking about these ways you can cut down on their expenses, because that's really going to help. That's really what helps people learn to save, is cutting back on those things that may not be necessities, finding creative ways to live, a little bit, below your means. So, okay, why don't we now talk about TN? So, with TN, basically with TN, she has been able to put some money aside in savings, and there's some money left over in the budget. So does somebody that has TN want to volunteer? Go ahead.
Okay, so at the end of everything, she originally had $1,589 left over to actually spend on the car. But then if we cut expenses, we cut out we put it in the December Christmas presents thing for the seasonal expenses, and we made it $100 instead of $200. Maybe buy cheaper gifts, and then we cut out eating out 3 times during the month, and what's it called? Buying lunch at work,
Mm-hmm.
and the contribution to community chest just for that one time, and we got $1,794. But then the thing is, we think the second option would be the best.
Okay.
But then she would have to take a loan from her cousin or something like that in order to buy it, because it's $2,500 and she would still.
Or she could wait until she got some more money.
Because the third one, it would cost more
To fix it.
than
Then
to
it-
actually
Yeah. So
Right.
and it's only for a little while. So
Very short-term solution. Yeah. Yeah. So it looks like with TN, you think that what she could do is cut back on some of her expenses, so she could maybe start saving more than she is, and then maybe borrow a little bit of money to put down that $2,500. Okay, so very good. Did anybody choose? I'm just curious. Did anybody choose the first one? Okay. For which one? Which one did you guys have? TN, and you picked the Saturn option?
Yeah.
So can you guys tell me about why you chose that one?
Well, we said it's the best payment option because it's monthly and it's more spread out, so it would be easier for her to pay. And if she uses her emergency fund to pay the insurance, she would owe $2,500 left. So she could also pay that in moderation. And if you subtract the monthly expenses from her take-home payment, she's left with $289, which she could put towards the car.
Okay, very good. And just so you guys know, there's no right or wrong answer here. I was just curious to see if anybody picked that first option, because the main point of this is to show that TN, because of the savings, seems to have more options because there's more room in the budget. So she has a choice to have have a situation where she's able to have a monthly payment, maybe make a couple other changes to her budget to make room for the car payment that she would have, or just continue to save and use the savings to buy the Honda. For that last option, you guys are right, it's a short-term solution, so that's probably more limited, but at least TN, with the savings she built, she's able to have more choices. So that's really just something to think about. Does anybody have any other comments or questions or ideas? Okay, well, you guys did a very good job. Thank you.
All right, good job, everybody. Thank you, Cassia. Choices, isn't it? It's about, and then putting as much safety as you can afford so that when emergencies happen, you can handle it, right? All right. So now something a little different. I have a DVD I'm going to show. And what I want you to notice, not only do I want you to follow it, but also I think if you've been coming all along, you'll be able to know all of the different terms that they use when they start talking about managing money. So you'll notice in this DVD, a lot of the things that we've talked about these last 5 or 6 sessions will come up during this presentation, all right? And then we'll talk about it after.
Hey, I'm Lance.
And I'm Maya.
Today we're going to be talking to you about money, how you get it, how you spend it, and how you manage it.
How to make your money work for you instead of you all the time working for it.
I don't believe that money is the most important thing in the world, but we do feel it is important enough to learn how to handle it.
It's not like we know everything there is to know about money management, but we have some experience, just like you, but we're still learning, just like you.
What we do have is a lot of great information from people who are the real experts. We feel it's important to learn from somebody who's actually been successful.
So we're going to be hearing from people from all areas of getting, spending, and handling money that you may be dealing with now, or will be pretty soon. So Lance, where do we start?
Well, for first-time viewers, let's start right here at the very beginning.
Why only for the first-timers?
Well, what we're going to cover follows a logical sequence, starting with earning money and ending with borrowing it. We feel for the first-time viewers, it's important to start with segment 1 and then carry on all the way towards the end. Next time, you can just go to the main menu and select whatever segment you would like.
So we'll start with a segment on ways we earn, beginning with earning what you need now and what you'll need in the future.
And why would you choose one job over another?
So let's get started.
All right.
When I was in high school, I worked part-time jobs, everything from waiting tables and bussing tables in restaurants to valet parking cars. And then also I bought and sold cars on the side as like a small business of my own.
I would babysit on the weekends and I would work in my mom's flower shop whenever she needed. And then once I had the money, I would go shopping.
I did a lot of stuff in the health medical organization. I worked for an HMO for a couple of years, and I worked at a hospital for a year too.
I did mostly babysitting for one particular family, and I worked in a pizza place. And I also worked as a receptionist at a massage therapy office.
I was a waitress in high school. I started when I was 15, serving tables, and I spent that money, all of it.
When I started making money through my part-time jobs, honestly, I blew a lot of money.
What I did, as most young people, is when they get a lot of money, is I spend it frivolously.
I would work restaurants, washing dishes, bussing tables. I worked at sporting goods stores, worked with my father who was a roofer, just anything I could do to save money, get ready to go to college.
The money I earned working at Wendy's, I spent. When I ran out of money, I just didn't have any.
In your pocket, in the moment, you have it, you spend it. And it did not set me up for the expectation of savings or planning for the future.
Let's look at the numbers.
Let's say you work 6 hours a day and you make $8 an hour. We multiply 6 times 8 and get $48. If you work 5 days a week, we multiply 48 by 5 and get $240 a week. That figure is called the gross income, what you make before deductions. With FICA, that's Social Security, federal and state tax, retirement, and health care, deductions can amount to 25% of your gross pay. In this case, that's $60. When you subtract that from the $240, you end up with $180. That's your net income. That's what you can actually spend. And you need that, why?
Didn't you see the tournament this weekend? This is the same club Tiger Woods uses.
And that means you need it.
Yes, because Tiger Woods is the man. Besides, you've never bought anything you really didn't need?
Not that I'm aware of.
Oh, come on now. I've seen you shop. How many lipsticks do you have in your bag?
Hey, you can never have too many lipsticks.
All red?
Not red, all different kinds of red. There's new shades coming out every week. And I'm not even talking nail polish.
Oh, and you need all of those because it's not cool to wear last week's color. Now, how much pressure is that?
Well, there's nothing we can do about the pressure to buy things, but at least we can ask ourselves, am I buying this because I want it or because somebody else thinks I should buy it?
Yeah, but I really want this club.
Well, the power of advertising, it's designed to play off of your emotions. Kids are getting bombarded by messages all the time, and they really have to be savvy to figure out what's really going on.
Well, there is a strategy behind a lot of television commercials today, in not only creating a want for a new product, but actually creating a need for that new product.
All types of companies come here to cut commercials, and their main goal is to sell to a consumer. Impulse buyer, young, old, doesn't matter, but it's important to them to get their message out, and that's what we do here. Bottom line, when we're cutting commercials, when we're making spots, we're trying to sell whatever it is that our client's client is trying to sell. Whether it be cars, iPods, doesn't matter. We're gonna do whatever it takes to get them to buy the product.
And that's why so many companies use athletes and actors to promote their products, because they know that we like to be like them.
I still have a problem today with impulse buying. What I like to do now is look at the product I want to buy, and then if I go home and I still think about it and I still think I need it, I'll go back, but never to buy it when I first see it. As a result, I've learned that I don't need everything that I see right away, and it's might have been cool for that first minute or two, but once I got home, I realized I'd have no use for it.
You know, there's a big difference between what you need and what you want. You know, I think it's typical of anybody to say, okay, I need some new tires for my car, but I want the new low-profile whatever it is. Well, you look at your bank account or you look at your paycheck and you know how much money's coming out of that. You know how much money you're going to get at the end of the week, the end of the next 2 weeks. You have to be realistic about it.
If you go in the store and say, I'm just going to buy what speaks to me, then everything is going to talk to you. So you have to go in there and have a certain thing that you're looking for. So like when I go to the mall, I say, okay, I'm looking for jeans. If I see a cute sweater, I say, okay, I wasn't looking for the cute sweater, so I just put it either on hold and come back for it, or I just go home and think about it. Because you just don't want to spend money that you weren't expecting to spend. The truth of the matter is, if you went to the store for jeans, you probably didn't need the sweater anyways.
Let's look at the numbers.
The reason so many companies advertise on TV is because kids watch about 40,000 commercials in a year. That's often why we buy stuff. And a lot of the purchases are impulse buys. According to the book Call of the Mall, 2/3 of all purchases are not planned in advance. Money Magazine surveys have shown that as many as 50% of people who make major purchases have regrets. Bottom line, be sure you plan and budget for major purchases.
Oh, how come there's always so much month left at the end of my money?
Cash flow problems?
Big time. I need $100 to pay my car insurance, and let's just say I don't have it at all.
Well, why not?
I kind of bought a ticket to the game last week.
You spent the money on a ticket to the game.
No, not all of it, just $25.
Not good planning. I thought you told me you had a really smart budget worked out.
I did, but they said it was going to be such a good game, and I had to buy the tickets right then, and so I used the $25 for the insurance for that. Plus, I just figured I'd replace it with what I had budgeted for entertainment.
So what happened?
Wiper blades. I totally had to get new wiper blades. That wiped out all my extra cash, and now I can't even make up what I was short.
Yeah, been there. You work out a budget that covers everything, and then something unexpected comes along and blows it. Budgeting's important, but it's not always that easy.
There are a lot of people who have a lot of cool things that don't have their financial situation under control. They have those cool things because their, debt is enormous. And those cool things aren't their cool things. They're someone else's. They've borrowed that.
I think managing your money is the most important thing you can learn. I mean, everything else that you learn growing up is really important about, reading and writing and math, but money is one thing that every person has to deal with and has to be, responsible for. So if you don't keep on top of your money, you're definitely in trouble.
When I'm trying to decide on a purchase, I obviously look at the price first and then look at the money that I have to spend for the month. And if it falls in that range, I'll purchase it. But if it goes over and it's going to put me in debt, then it's not worth it.
But you have to be very disciplined with your money, and most importantly, set up a budget. Think of how much money is coming in from whatever part-time job you have, and think about what's going out. And actually, when you do set up a budget, you'll be pretty surprised about how much you do spend and how much money you actually could be saving.
A cool way to get started with your money management is listing the income that you have coming in, knowing that probably each paycheck will be X amount of money, and then planning for the expenses. A basic idea would be dividing up your expenses each month by paycheck. Living within your income means understanding how much you're bringing in each month, whether it's a part-time job or lawn cutting, babysitting, and then planning for what you have at the end of the month with your different expenses.
And actually what I would say is to write down every little thing you're spending on for a month, because you'd actually be surprised how much money you're really putting towards miscellaneous expenses. The cup of coffee here and there, the candy bar in the vending machine, the pop that you get. All that stuff really adds up, so it's a good idea to write down everything so that you know where your money is going.
Learning to manage your money is empowering because it gives you the opportunity to sort of be the boss and to be independent. And you know, for me, and I think for a lot of people, that independence is it's a good feeling.
Let's look at the numbers.
Say that your net income is $180 a week. The first amount you figure is how much you're going to save. That should be about 10% of your net income. That's $18. Subtract that from the $180 and you've got $162. Then you figure expenses you have every week. That can include gas, phone, and lunches. We'll say that adds up to $90. Take that from the $162 and you get $72 for all your other expenses. Keep track of what you spend. Oh, but see, right there, see? I almost have enough money in my savings account to buy it.
Wait, you put money in your savings account every week just so you can blow it on some piece of jewelry?
Okay, first of all, it's not just some piece of jewelry, it's a sterling silver cup with enamel and gold leaf. Secondly, I'm not blowing anything. I have a set minimum amount in my savings account that I never touch. Then, if I want something special,
Like a piece of jewelry.
like a special piece of jewelry, I save a little bit more every month until I have enough to get it. Meantime, what I'm saving is earning interest.
Well, like I always say, a penny saved is a penny earned.
You say that?
No. I believe it was Benjamin Franklin. You know, lightning, stoves, bifocals.
I know. American history?
Well, it also looks like you know how to handle your savings.
I know it's important to have a savings account as soon as you can start putting money in there. I mean, I think you should have it as early as possible, just because every little cent counts.
It's important to not live check to check, because having that money is an extra cushion. You can invest it, it's rainy day money, or it's emergency money.
So your car breaks down and you need to fix something, but it's definitely more than, you know, you're ready to spend this week via your paycheck or whatever. But if you have a savings account and you've been regularly putting money in there or whatever, that can be a safety net for you.
Instead of playing the would've, could've, should've game, then just do it, save the money, and you will thank yourself in the long run.
Once you start making money, designate a certain amount to set aside every month. I would say, you know, whether it's 20% or something along those lines, and just leave that alone, and that's what I'm doing.
I feel like I'm accomplishing something. As I make more and more money, as I see more money add up in the bank, I feel like I'm making a goal.
It just seems when you get it together, if you end up managing your money, it's a lot easier to manage your life.
Let's look at the numbers.
Why a savings account? Because you get interest on your savings. In fact, you get compound interest. That means that you're making interest on the interest. If you put $100 per month in a savings account that pays 4% interest a year for 3 years, you're putting in a total of $1,200 a year. At the end of year 1, with the interest, you've got $1,222. At the end of year 2, you've put in $2,400, and you've got $2,494. End of 3 years, the $3,600 you put in is worth $3,818, and it just keeps adding up the longer you save.
Thank you. Have a nice day. Insufficient funds.
What?
She said insufficient funds. Now, how does a bank not have sufficient funds?
I don't think she meant the bank. I think she meant you.
Oh, I got funds. Here, look at my checking account. $451.93. That looks sufficient to me.
That entry was a week ago. Have you written a check since then that you didn't record?
Me. Write a check and not write it down. Come on, are you serious?
Yes.
Wait a minute. Well, that's what I did. I wrote a check for some course pack and I didn't write it down. Then I wrote a check for my car payment, and that's the one that didn't clear.
Not a good thing. You're going to have to pay the original bill plus a bank charge plus a late fee.
You know, I thought I had this checking account thing down, and I still screw it up.
Well, you're not alone. Just about everybody messes up their checking account sometime.
You need a certain amount of money for daily living, and so that's what I use my checking account for. And I always keep a log of where my money is going. So if I write a check, or even if I use my debit card, then I write that down so that I never run short in my checking account.
I have never bounced a check. I always have the funds available. I make sure the checks that I'm writing are always good, and I always have the funds in the bank account for it.
If you have enough to cover your expenses and then still have some set aside and some saved, I think that's what is really a successful person, somebody that can cover everything and, you know, have that level of independence on their own.
Be familiar with the options out there for you to manage your money. Be familiar with what it's like to have a checking account, how to balance a checkbook, how to save money, what's good for interest, what you would like to do when you're out of college, when you're out of high school.
If you've been bouncing checks, not paying people back, that's going to come back to haunt you because the banks are going to see that. They track everything financially.
Let's look at the numbers.
You think you've got $110 in your account, so you write a check for $100 at a store. Truth is, you've only got $96 in your account. That means you're only $4 short. When the store tries to cash the check, the bank sends it back. Then the bank charges you a return item fee, usually about $20, which they take out of your account immediately. Now you've got only $76 in the account. The store deposits the check again, and the bank sends it back again. And the bank charges your account another $20. So now there's only $56 in the account. That means you need $44 just to cover the check. But most stores charge a fee for a return check. The amount varies, but $25 is common. So by the time you cover the check and pay all the fees, that $100 purchase costs you $165. I thought when you said you wanted to do some electronic banking that we were going to meet at an ATM.
Well, you told me the only electronic banking you've done was at an ATM. So I thought I'd show you some cool things and grab a smoothie.
An ATM is still about it for me. I don't even pay my bills online.
But you do a lot more than you think over the internet. Do you ever download music? Legally, of course.
Yeah, doesn't everybody?
Okay, and how do you pay for it?
I've got an account.
Like you have at Amazon or Borders?
Sure.
Okay, and when you order from their online catalog, how do they get their payment?
I give them my credit card and they charge it.
All electronically.
Oh, I get it. Anytime I do anything online or use my credit card, it's all electronic banking?
Exactly, and it can become a lifesaver.
Today, I use a lot of electronic banking because it's very easy to look at the big picture that way, look at all of your accounts, look at all of your expenses. It's easy to keep track that way, and it's easy to pay bills that way as well.
I do online banking, and I can do transfers, and I can always keep looking up how much money is in my checking account to see the purchases and do transfers from my savings to my checking to make sure I have the money available.
I do a lot of online banking. To me, it's just easier. You don't have to deal with the paper bills, and you know, they send you updates to your email, so it's a lot easier for me to manage it and keep on top of things and make sure I don't, you know, fall behind on my bills.
Electronic banking, working online, gives you, you know, greater control because you can see from day to day, say with a debit card, you can see right down to the penny what you've spent and where it's gone.
I would suggest students learn about online banking right away when they open their first checking or savings account. There are employees at your bank or credit union that would be happy to tell you about online banking and how it works. Students may want to look at using online banking as a method of managing their money because it's extremely convenient.
Let's look at the numbers.
If you deposit a check for $100 at your bank, the whole 100 goes into your account. If you deposit it at a different bank, that bank might charge you as much as a $5 transaction fee. Then only $95 goes into your account. In some cases, your bank will also charge you a transaction fee. If it's another $5, you're putting only $90 into your account. That's a high price to pay for not going to your own bank.
Thank you. Well, looks like I'm gonna have to get a new credit card.
How come?
After this purchase, this one just doesn't have any more money on it.
What do you mean?
Well, I maxed it out, so I'm gonna throw it away and get another one.
You use a credit card until it's maxed out and then you throw it away?
Yeah, doesn't everybody?
Are you serious?
No. What kind of moron do you think I am?
I was starting to wonder.
Oh, believe me, I know all about credit cards. First one I had, I maxed it out big time. Late payments, overspent. You know, it almost took me a year to pay it all off and get my credit good again.
That's a tough way to learn about getting and keeping good credit.
My first bank account came with a credit card with a $500 limit, and I remember thinking that was absurd. How could anyone ever spend $500 on a credit card? Until I went to the mall and spent $500 on my credit card. And then it was really easy when they said, oh my gosh, we've extended your limit because you are a great credit card user.
When I was in college, they set up booths to lure you in to get a credit card, you get a free t-shirt if you sign up to get a credit card, and then you're overwhelmed with all this free money that they give you, and then you overextend yourself.
In the sense of credit cards, you can keep spending until you've maxed it out. And you don't realize, because a lot of times the minimum payments are not going to be a significant amount. You have a small balance, $100, you make a small payment each month. You can continue to build that up and by the end have a significant amount of debt, still be paying a minimum payment, probably around 4% each month. And then you get to the point and you've maxed the card out, and now you can't use that anymore. You've got a card that you have a max out balance, you no longer have that supplement of income for the things you want, and then you're stuck.
The best way to earn credit with credit cards is get that $500 balance, use it, pay for your gas, pay for groceries, but pay that off.
I think it's extremely important to handle your credit cards well. You need to pay the balance in full each month. And if you can't, try to make as large of a payment as you can. It gets dangerous when you're carrying balances and you can only afford to make the minimum payments.
Anytime you apply for a credit card, a debit card, those credit reports are always given to the people who look at your application, and that's going to determine whether they approve or they don't approve your loans and what you're going for.
Keep it under control. Just because it's credit doesn't mean it's free money, which is a trap, which a lot of people fall into.
Managing credit cards is very challenging, but not overwhelming. It's not something that can't be done.
Digging yourself out of the hole is much harder than maintaining good credit, I should say. If you start out with good credit, it's much easier to maintain good credit.
Well, 35% of your credit score is actually your payment history. So that means that that's actually the largest chunk of your credit score. 30% is your debt load, 15% is the length of your history, 10% is the number of new credit inquiries you have, and then the last 10% is the type of credit that you have. So what I'm saying to high school students is, if you focus on paying your bills on time, you can really build your credit score.
Let's look at the numbers.
Credit purchases have interest charges. The higher the charge and the longer you take to pay off the debt, the more the item costs. If you buy a high-end sound system for $2,500 and take 3 years to pay for it, you don't just pay for the system. At a normal credit card interest rate of 18% interest a year, paying $100 a month, the numbers look like this. The $2,500 you charged ends up costing you $3,163. And it's never a smart money management move to pay only the minimum monthly payment.
Oh, come on, this car is so you.
Be serious. Did you see that price?
So?
So I don't have that much money saved up.
Saved up? We're only talking about a down payment.
You mean like charge it?
No, I mean finance it.
Finance it? I don't think that's such a great idea.
Why? Did your grandma tell you not to?
No, it was my aunt. And what she said was, if you can't pay for the car you want, you should look for a car you can afford, or else wait until you have enough money for the car you want.
I don't know, that thinking just seems so 20th century.
What does that mean?
What it means is if you do it right, borrowing money could be a great way to handle this kind of purchase.
When a young person is looking to buy their first vehicle, especially on their own, they should look at all the options, leasing versus purchasing, the length of term, there's tons of things. And if, they've got a little bit of money they can't afford to put down to get that payment down into a good range, they should do that. Just make it easier to make that payment, their credit score will be better. And then when they come to get their next vehicle, it'll just be that much easier.
If you have someone co-sign for you and for some reason you cannot keep up with that payment and you get late on that payment, it's going to affect your credit, but it's also going to affect the credit of the person who co-signed for you.
When I bought my first car, I used my tax returns as a down payment. I also, of course, had my father as a co-signer, but I was able to look at my budget and see what I was able to afford that month and what kind of car I was able to afford.
My strategy to purchase the vehicle was adding up everything, as far as insurance, as far as weekly payments. All that is very important that a lot of kids I don't think about before they buy a car, they just want it now.
don't go for the shiny car with the nice rims and the loud speakers, because that isn't what really provides your transportation back and forth to work. You might want to take a step back. Don't overextend yourself.
If you get yourself into a car payment that is higher, even by $100 a month than you can afford, and you're not making that payment even on time, even if it's just late, you're 30 days late 10 times over the course of that loan, that's going to affect you negatively.
So if you're talking about like buying a car, they may charge you a higher interest rate if you have poor credit, which means you might be paying a couple $100s a month more than someone with great credit. And when you think about it, a couple $100s a month really adds up. And so you're paying a whole lot more when you have poor interest.
You want to try to get into something that you can afford to start with. The latest trend might not be something that's really affordable in your budget. You might need to start with something a little less flashy that gets better gas mileage. And also to make sure that the interest rate is going to be good for you as well.
Let's look at the numbers.
When you buy or lease a car, you pick the make, model, and color. How much you put down and how long you take to pay off the car influences what the car actually costs. Let's take a $15,000 car. You put 20% or $3,000 down. The remaining cost is $12,000. Your monthly payments are based on that amount. If you get a 6% interest rate and you pay the car off in 3 years, you'll pay $365 a month with total payments of $13,140. With the $3,000 down, your $15,000 car cost you $16,140. If you increase the time to 4 years, the monthly payment drops to $282, but you're paying a total of $16,536 for the car. The math is simple. The longer you take to pay off the balance, the more the car will end up costing.
There's a lot to know about earning and handling your money, but it's not anything we can't learn.
True fact. And there's lots of places to learn. When there's a problem or a question, there are professionals at banks and credit unions who'll give you the facts.
Well, I say we wrap this whole thing up with some hot tips on money matters from people who know.
Let's do it.
The biggest thing that I've learned is it doesn't matter how much money you make unless you save it. If you save your money well, then you're building for the future. And it's not just making money now, it's also everything you learn throughout the process, all the training you have to go through, and all the budgeting and managing money that you learn.
It is important to become as self-sufficient as early as possible. You can't always rely on your parents paying for your education, even if they promise that to you, because if they experience some type of loss or cutback in their job, they might not be able to continue through with that promise that they fully intended to follow through on.
The truth of the matter is, if you try to keep up with your friends and trends, you're always going to end up spending more than you need to. So the trends will change. Buy something that's timeless. Have your own style. If your goal is to be the first with everything, make your own style, and then they'll try to be catching up with you.
In your budget, you should account for anything you spend money on a monthly basis, whether that be food, gasoline, entertainment, clothing, if you pay rent on your own, also that as well, car payments, any types of loans that you have. You really need to write that down and stick to it.
I wouldn't recommend borrowing money from friends because you can never guarantee when you'll be able to pay them back. And if they need the money sooner than you're able to pay them back, you'll get them in trouble, and it's a big spiral effect.
But in all actuality, there are a myriad of resources available to young people who are looking to build good credit and make responsible choices in purchasing and really develop their financial future. It's just a matter of reaching out to people that you respect and admire and you like the way that they live their life and asking questions.
I would probably go to a bank or a credit union and see what they have. Go to their frequently asked questions. Go to their FAQs and find out what it is that you can do to manage your money better. They will be able to help you. Anything that you think that you can any questions you might have, they should be able to at least get you pointed in the right direction.
You have a friend, a family member, a parent, a teacher, anybody who is willing to give you some advice about budgeting. Don't take it as a burden. Don't take it as somebody telling you how to spend your money or live your life. Listen to them. Take their advice. Ask for help when trying to formulate some type of budget, but do it early on so that you can get the most out of your own earnings when you start working.
All right. What do you guys think? You recognize all those terms? Makes sense? You know, just like they said, it's a lot easier to start out with those good practices than going back and making up for mistakes that you've made. So that being said, we're going to just do a little bit of a review now, okay? You don't have to stand. Yeah. Cassia, as you can tell, is pretty pregnant, and so I don't think we need her to stand up, do you? Unless anyone wants to see her give birth. But anyway, okay. Anyway, okay. So today is a little bit of a review, and just to reinforce practicing of good habits when it comes to money. You know what? Let's pull it together a little bit. When we started out this program, we talked about financial institutions, right? We talked about banks and credit unions, and we learned that the reason that people you know, might want to keep their money in a bank or a credit union instead of their mattress was that they were pretty safe, right? Also, we learned that the FDIC, does anyone remember what that stood for? Ah, that's awesome. You almost had it. Okay, she said the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, FDIC. And they are the ones that insure banks. And we learned that for the accounts in a bank is about $250,000, right? So that can be why folks would bank at or credit at a couple of different places if they have that much wealth. All of you will have to do that. I'm just kidding. Well, maybe. Then we also talked about the NCUA. This is the National Credit Union Administration. And credit unions, most of them are also insured. So when you're going into a financial institution, you definitely want to see these signs displayed so you know that your deposits and your money are insured. Okay? All right, so then we talked a little bit about the basic type of accounts that are in banks and credit unions. Do you remember the basic kind? Okay. Deposit accounts, where the primary purpose is to save money and make it grow. And then transaction accounts, and we kind of use that interchangeably with checking accounts, right? Because that's where a transaction account would be where you might write a check or go to the ATM for your car payment, or if you were going out, you might want to get some cash. And that would come from that transaction account. We talked, remember the skit we did? We talked about the different roles of folks in banks and credit unions. And we know that the teller, that person is mainly responsible for interacting with you for what?
When you come to withdraw money or something?
When you come to withdraw money, what were you going to say? That's it. The teller is the one that, have you guys ever heard of teller window? Okay, that's the one that you would actually walk up to and give your documents to do that transaction, whether it is a deposit or a withdrawal, okay? So that's your kind of your frontline person doing the day-to-day. We took a look at customer service. Do you remember what that representative did? Anybody? I know it was, yeah.
Help the customer?
Pretty much. Was that you? Did you play the customer service guy in the skit? I don't think so. I can't remember. But that's the, yeah.
Aren't they the ones that would they help the customer, wouldn't they be the one that helps you see which person you need to go to?
Yeah, they could do that. They might also be called a relationship counselor. So they're able to help you take a look at not only who you need to speak with, but also what kind of products might be best for you. All right. We talked about the loan officer whose primary responsibility is to help you apply for loans, and then the manager who kind of oversees the whole thing. All right. And when we were talking about saving and investing, and really there are two things you can do when you are saving and investing, and the first is the savings. And here's some of the things that we talked about when it came to just saving money. What could we do with this money? Besides, we all decided that it wasn't a good idea to put it in our mattress or just keep it in the piggy bank, right? Not when it gets growing, maybe for a couple bucks. But all right, so in savings, you can have maybe a checking account to store your money. You could have a savings account, money market, and a certificate of deposit. And we learned that a checking account, usually you don't get a lot of interest on that. That's more of that transaction account. We also learned that then the savings account, that you might get a little bit of interest, a little bit of money for keeping your money in a savings account. Money market accounts, usually a little bit more than the saving account, and then the certificate of deposit. The deal with the certificate of deposit, it has a maturity date, right? You can get it for a year or 2 years or 3 years. So you really, without penalties, you can't access that CD until that maturity date comes along. Okay. So we talked about savings, and really with all of those, are those safe? Are you pretty much guaranteed? Yeah. You're guaranteed. Your money's guaranteed in these kind of products, okay? But we also talked about investing. Now, investing, when we touched on, and you guys are going to be looking at this after the first of the year a little bit deeper, all right? But we did talk about bonds and stocks and mutual funds and retirement investments. And we know that with investing, they're not guaranteed, right? Stock market, there's no guarantee, right? Kind of goes like that. A lot has to do with politics, what's going on around the world. We know that retirement investments are extremely important to start early. Time is key. Your money will grow the sooner you start to save. And the other thing to keep in mind when it comes to this is, you know what, liquidity. Does anyone remember what liquidity? Yeah.
When it's like your money's like in a liquid state, not where you can't spend it, like a certificate of deposit where you have to just let it sit there until it matures.
Okay.
You spend it right away.
Yeah, so you can have access to it.
It's kind of like the measure of how easily you can get your money.
It is how easily you can get your money, and if there's a penalty, it wouldn't be as liquid as, say, a checking account, right? So we learned that when it comes to like a savings account, especially for emergency, you want it to be very liquid, right? So you can get at it. You don't have to wait. Then we talked about setting goals. We did a couple of exercises when it came to setting goals, and we know that setting goals, we know that with our money, making the most of our money means choices. You know, how much you're going to spend, save, and invest. Because there's a balance there that you want to try and reach, and it has to do with setting your goals. And we know that you can save for small items like CDs or, you know, video games or whatever, and then the larger items you definitely need to save for. The TV, the car, the house, it takes planning. We talked about short, mid, and long-term goals. And the reason that you wanted to have short, mid, and long-term goals is so that your finances are balanced. You're not just living right here and today. You've got plans maybe 3 years out to get a car, or maybe 10 years out you want to own your own house. It's nice to think about that stuff now, guys, you know? Okay. We then started talking about budgeting and how you could budget and how that is the backbone to everything that you do financially, isn't it? It's the managing the day-to-day so that you can put some stuff aside to save and invest to make it grow. I mean, basically, isn't that it? Yeah. Okay, so when we talked about budgeting, we remember that income, there's a difference between gross and net. And we took a look at what that was about in the taxes. And I brought that pie chart in there because you guys very astutely asked, well, how come taxes are so much? Right? And we looked at, see what those taxes actually pay for. We know that when we are looking at a budget, we always want to use our net income because that's the money we really have to spend. That's where we can make our choices. We talked about expenses, and some of you took home the tracking sheet and actually got some extra incentive to track your finances. And a couple of you weren't surprised at all. Yeah, this is how much I figured I was spending. But there were a couple of you that were pretty shocked about where the money was going. So, and I will guarantee you that if you talk to the adults in your lives, that if they try to track expenses, it'll be the same thing. Some will have a good handle on it, but the majority won't. They won't really understand. They don't know where their little day-to-day expenses go. It's really eye-opening. We know that the whole idea of budgeting is you want to balance the goals and your income and your expenses, right? And we did that. We kind of illustrated that with the Spartan dollars and cents game. And we also talked about how you can do banking online. You can get apps. You can track with apps. I put on on the table a real simple budget sheet. And this is just to act as a reminder for you. I have extras if anybody wants it. But what you would do is you would set your budget on this side, and then on the other side, that's where you're going to track your expenses. We also talked about how it might be a good idea to kind of pull it all together every week and add up, how much you spend at the restaurant, how much you're spending on gas. Well, that's what this tracking sheet does. It asks you to total it up for the week and go ahead and plug it in. All right. Then we talked about net worth. Remember Molly and Earl James? We learned that net worth is what you own versus or subtracted from what you owe, right? So assets is what you own, liability is what you owe. And that is your net worth. And we also learned that although Molly seemed to be living large, remember, she was the one that had the new car, the good job, she went on vacation. And poor EJ was working 2 jobs, going to the community college and renting. But when we really figured out their net worth, who was better off? EJ, absolutely. He had quite a bit of money. He was investing that money, wasn't he? Financing your future. So basically, this is it, guys, setting goals. The main reason that goals are so important is it helps you focus. You know what? If you don't know where you're going, you're never going to get there, right? We also know that the backbone of financing your future has to do with your budget. Managing the money, making the most of what you have. So you want to take a look at your revenue, which is another word for income, and your expenses. And the goal is always to balance those out. Keeping in mind that the savings is going to be an expense. You're going to pay it like you would a bill. Pay yourself first. We kind of talked about that, didn't we? We also know that saving, you know what, time is your friend when it comes to saving. The earlier you can start saving, even if it's a little bit, if you can leave it alone and let it grow because of that compound interest, I'm telling you, you're going to have it made. Have your money work for you. Get interest on the interest. That's what compound is. Finally, keeping up with your accounts. In the video you just saw, there was a little bit about writing checks and NSF. What does NSF stand for? Absolutely, non-sufficient funds. What does that mean? Yeah. You don't have enough money. So when whoever cashes the check you wrote, when they go to cash it, you don't have enough in your account, so your bank bounces it back. You might hear that word, bounce the check. And we know that if that happens, oh my goodness, you start getting fees, not only from who you wrote that check to, whatever bank that was, but your account, your bank, your credit union is going to assign some fees there too. So it's really important to keep up with your accounts. So with that check register, not only do you want to make sure you record every time, whether it's electronically or paper, every check you make, but every withdrawal you make. You know, when you go to the ATM, that's what kind of trips people up, is they don't count that. But just go ahead and put it in the register.
Yeah, I found like it's like really easy when I was like I did a couple check registers, you know, for practice.
Yeah.
It's like really easy to trip up on them in the beginning. So it's probably best to maybe do it on the computer, really, because if you can really end up with a lot of non-sufficient funds if you don't keep track.
Yeah.
You can trip up really easy. It's best to have an exact way to calculate it.
I am so glad you just said that, because we also talked about how it's got to feel right for you, right? That if you're not a person that goes online a lot and uses a laptop or a personal, then you probably don't want to keep track of your finances that way, right? Maybe you're on your phone all the time. Great, get an app. We talked about different apps too, and how even financial institutions allow you to do some of their functions online and with apps. Yeah. Simplicity is key, and it's got to make sense to you. It has to fit your lifestyle. You guys learned a lot. You really did. I'm proud of all of you. You amazed me through these last few sessions. I was like, my goodness, they get it. This is awesome. I wish I had gotten this as much as you guys do at your age. So what I want to do is I just want to encourage you, come back after the new year, keep learning. It is your money. You are financing your future.